Alright, now we're going to do part 2 of the same story. So remember, you're already in your book section, and you're already in this story, so we're on page 396. Alright, so we're going to go through it. So you look at your picture, he looks like he is sleeping in his bed with his basketball. Seems a little funny.
Early the next morning, Tavo awoke with a start. His father was shaking his shoulder. "Tavo, wake up." Tavo rubbed his eyes and protested. "It is still dark outside." "Get up, Tavo, we have a lot of work to do." "But Papa, I have practice today." Gustavo handed Tavo a shovel. "Son, basketball comes later."
So it says that he protested, so he didn't want to do it, and his dad was saying that they have a lot of work to do and handed them a shovel. So it says that basketball comes later. So it means first they have to work and then they can play basketball. So here it is that him and his dad are shoveling. They're working. Let's see what it says.
The two Gustavos started work at the edge of their field. All day long they shoveled out the silt that had filled in the ancient Zanhe. When night finally came, Tavo slumped into bed, every bone in his body aching. They began all over again the next morning, digging and digging and digging some more. Hours turned into days. Days turned into weeks as father and son slowly worked their way up the mountain.
So far in the story, the little boy, Tavo, was playing basketball. His shoes were breaking apart. His dad said they couldn't afford new shoes. And then it said that he was waiting for the rain to come so they could grow the food, grow the corn, dry the corn, harvest the corn, pound it into flour, and then sell it. And now they're working on digging out that irrigation system, remember? So it said it's ancient, so it's very old. It's not where it should be now. So they're trying to dig it all out, which is taking a long, long time. It said that he slumped into bed, every bone in his body aching. So it was very hard work. It wasn't easy to do.
There was one house high up in the mountain. It belonged to an old widow. Tavo had heard strange stories about her. "Is it true what they say about her? That she is a bruja, a witch?" he asked his father nervously. "Tavo," his father laughed, "don't believe everything you hear. Senora Rosa is just a widow. People are always suspicious of anyone who is different." "Senora Rosa?" Gustavo called out. There was no answer, but in the yard they saw a patchwork quilt draped over a chair. A needle dangling from a silver thread swayed in the air. As they left, Gustavo carved a channel to connect Senora Rosa's small garden to the main Zanhe. He turned toward Tavo with a mischievous smile. "Even witches need water."
So if we look at our picture, it looks like there's a clothesline and a plant, and he's walking towards the widow's house, I guess. So look at his shoes still.
Higher and higher they continued to dig. Weeks passed this way, and Tavo's muscles no longer ached from the hard work. One day the two Gustavos worked their way up into a shadowy ravine near the top of the mountain. Under their feet, the ground was soggy and green. "We did it, Tavo. We found the spring," Gustavo cried. With triumph, they cleared away the debris, and the water bubbled forth down the arid mountainside. Jubilant, they danced in its wake. Down, 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 splashing along. Down, 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 until the water reached their thirsty field. As they whooped and hollered, Tavo felt the cool mud squishing between his toes. In his excitement, Tavo's ragged sneakers had slipped off his feet, and now they were lost somewhere in the muddy waters.
So, let's see what's going on. What happens when Tavo and his father find the spring? Think about it and see if you can find it. Yeah, look at his face. So it says he was jubilant. How do you think he's feeling? I think he's feeling pretty happy and proud of himself. Yeah, they're playing basketball. Oh no, look at him. His friends are playing basketball and he's not. He's sitting over there.
Without sneakers, Tavo could no longer practice with the team. Instead, he practiced his shots using an old barrel hoop that his father had nailed to a tree in their yard. Even so, Tavo continued to go down to the village to watch his teammates practice. But he often found himself gazing up at the mountainside, at the one patch of green in that blanket of brown, his father's field. If I can see it, they can too. But why aren't people talking about this? Tavo puzzled. And then it dawned on him. Maybe they were just too proud to admit that Gustavo's idea had been a good one. All of a sudden, Tavo had his own good idea.
What do you think his idea was? Here he's gazing up at the mountainside because he can't play. He doesn't have any shoes. And then he has an idea. There he is in the fields, shoeless.
The next morning, Tavo got up early and walked toward their field, a machete in hand. At the edge of the field, he stopped and stared in amazement.
So it says he got up early and he had a machete in hand. If we look at the other picture, if you look at his hand, because it said machete in hand, looks like a big old knife.
The next morning, Tavo got up early and walked toward their field, a machete in hand. At the edge of the field, he stopped and stared in amazement. There in front of him were his missing sneakers. The duct tape was gone, but so were the holes. His sneakers had been beautifully patched. He recognized the fabric and the silver thread. "Senora Rosa," he whispered aloud. He laced the sneakers on, and his feet began to tingle.
Oh my goodness. If we go back, so look at his sneakers. If we go back to where he met the Senora Rosa, look on the chair outside of her house was that fabric and the thread. So remember, his shoes were all messed up, but he saw that fabric there. Looks like they fell in the water when he was so excited.
Tavo grabbed a cornstalk and cut it close to the ground. Then he raced down the mountain path, straight to the mayor's house. With the magic sneakers on his feet, he felt as if he could fly. Though it was still early, Tavo eagerly knocked on the door. The mayor opened it, blinking sleepily in the morning light. Tavo raised the stalk high, but he didn't say anything. Then the mayor let out a sigh, his face softening. Yes, Tavo, yes, I see it. I believe it's time we all see your father's field.
So he has a corn stalk. Remember the dad had said that they needed rain in order to have the corn stalk? Well, instead of that, since they dug that irrigation system, they didn't need rain. So they got their water a different way so that the corn can still grow and they can still have everything that they needed. Pretty cool.
For the next several weeks, Gustavo was much in demand, helping the other villagers connect their own fields to the main zane.
So instead of just connecting their field with the zane, with the irrigation system, they actually helped the other villagers also connect their lands with the irrigation. So they didn't just do it themselves and be like, okay, mine's good enough. They actually helped the people in their village too so they could have it also.
And Tavo rejoined his teammates on the basketball court for the first game of the season. From midcourt, Tavo could see his father, sitting in a place of honor next to the mayor. Then the game began.
So his dad's watching him play the game. Probably very excited about that. Their faces look very happy. Or jubilant.
And what a game it was! 1 minute, Tavo's team was ahead, and the next minute, behind. At the end, the game was tied. It went into overtime. Then the ball was in Tavo's hands. He planted himself and crouched. He felt the tingling sensation in his feet shoot upward through the muscles of his arms made so strong from shoveling. The ball soared toward the basket. Swoosh! The villagers went wild. Tavo, Tavo, bravo, Tavo, they chanted in unison. And he liked the sound of it. Tavo was a great basketball name.
Everybody's so excited. He's doing such a good job.
It was late by the time the two Gustavos started up the mountain toward home. Gustavo looked over the moonlit fields high with corn. He stopped and put his hands on Tavo's shoulders. Son, it's time for new sneakers. What do you think? Tavo wriggled his toes. They still tingled with magic energy. No, Papa. These will do.
So at the end of the story, his dad wants to get him new sneakers because now he probably has the money since everything is going well. But Tavo doesn't want them because he says they have magic energy from the lady who sold them for him. Awesome. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and go through our questions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to send you these questions on a nearpod lesson so you can go through them, and I'm going to go through that too on the actual lessons. Okay, so that was our story. It also has these 4 questions at the end of it. So how do you know that Bravo Tavo is realistic fiction? We talked about that. We talked about how it's fiction because the pictures look fake and it didn't actually happen, but it's realistic because it could happen. There could be a little boy in a village who needs new sneakers and who has to work hard and who loves basketball. Why does Tavo think that he needs new sneakers? So you can go through that. And some of them gives you pages. So this one gives you a page, but this one has different keywords. Like this one, the Zang has, because in your story you can actually go find that one. So you can answer those 4 questions also. That would be awesome. You can remember to keep going through your story if you need to find something. So I'm going to create an earpod